All right, all right. Listen, man, it's been a long time. First and foremost, it's been a long time since we've been running on here on the social experiment show. You know what I mean? Having different conversations and having different guests and talking. But I appreciate all of the viewers. You know what I mean? All the responses, all the feedback that we've been getting. I definitely appreciate all the conversations that we've been having with our guests and different people coming on and just having different insights to say. I mean, different and feedback to give, and then different people to discuss and talk about. You know what I mean? The response has been good. The relationships that we've been building, the people we've been connecting with and communicating with has been good. It's been great. You know what I mean? So, I figured we was doing a little bit more digging. I've been doing some research, been kind of, working on the studio, trying to get that right, trying to get that together. I've been reaching out to different people, building the schedule, and then, I got into contact with, you know, Mr. Darrel Cook, Pastor Darrell Cook. I don't understand. I don't know how he wants his announcements to be, but we're gonna give him an opportunity to say that. But I have him waiting in the lobby. He was interested in coming on here, having the conversation and being a guest. So I figured we was gonna kick the show right back off, and we gonna come in with some heavy hitters. Like I remember sitting down there. I was at one of the meetings, for the politicians, and I heard him speak. And like when I heard some of the things he was saying, and like how he said it, like it was just like the voice being so captivating, and you hear the power behind somebody's voice. Like it's definitely somebody who I felt like I need to be having a conversation with and linking with, and all of this kind of came together. So we end up making things happen. So I'm glad that he was able to take the opportunity to speak with me and have this conversation. So I'm gonna invite him on, and we're gonna get it rolling from there. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna invite him on here now. What's going on? What's going on, good brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, my brother. I appreciate you having me on. It's a blessing being here.
Oh no, absolutely, man. I appreciate you accepting the invite. I appreciate you wanting to come on here, had a conversation. And like I was saying, like I remember being at the little engagement again. I don't know exactly what it was called. People ask me to show up for different things, and I show up to learn different things. But it was like I said, when I was hearing you speak and some of the things that you were saying, the way that you like represented yourself through your voice and through your words, I'm just like, yo, like, I never, been to your church or a guest at your I ain't gonna say not invited, I mean a guest, but I've never visited. You know what I mean? So just to hear some of the
Mhm.
things you had to say, and then after having the conversation with your younger brother on here a little while back, and then the conversation I had with Patrick Lyons as well. You know what I mean? Shout out to those guys because them are definitely some great dudes and some
Great
amazing
dude.
dudes, and we kind of had different conversations about people they had in their circle, and your name keep coming up. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to have you on here to speak to you. We're gonna have a conversation about a bunch of different subjects. I'm sitting here drinking my tea, man. It's all freestyle, like
Yes,
I didn't
sir.
want to
Yeah.
I didn't want to overdo it and do no research and nothing like that. I figured like we're gonna figure it out from you. We're gonna get it from you.
Yeah.
So like first and foremost, when I ask everybody when I first call them on here and they get involved, like what made you accept the invite or the invitation to say that you were willing or interested to be a guest on the show?
Well, a couple things, man. I've been hearing about the wave. Certainly been hearing about your movement, man, and certainly want to give you a major shout out. I think we're in this time in which the gatekeepers have been moved out the way, and content creators are able to come and build their own platform and to speak about what's ever on their mind, and we're talking about from music to entertainment, politics, everywhere. And so for me to see some brothers that are just busting through, who are, learning, innovating in real time, buying equipment, having the conversations. Anytime I get an opportunity to talk to some brothers that's doing it and understand the times, I'm all for it. And so, I've been creating content online since 2008, and
Okay.
I didn't know that we were going to be here in 2022 post COVID, and just to see how everything has just just blown up. Again, I'm excited to see brothers like you, my boy Bobby Fletcher. I can go on and on about brothers that's just doing it big, and man, I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that for real. Like just being able to be involved and be involved in the conversation and come on here and having the conversation with me. And that's interesting that you say that because I was just in the room with a couple of different gentlemen and I was just talking about that. As far as like some of us in our age bracket and our time frame, like we got some steam in us. You know what I mean? It's a lot of us making
Yeah,
some noise and it's a lot of us got a lot of motivation and we pushing forward and we moving forward and we are way more innovative. So to see other people get involved with that and be on board with like, hey, I'm willing to have a conversation or I'm willing to give my time and my ear, you know what I mean? And all of that, like that definitely feels good to just know you had that support and to be able to interact with people on that level. So I appreciate you for that, and I appreciate like the people that you have around you, and you know the things that you do for other people. But outside of that, like I want to ask you, like who is Darrel Cook? Like that's gonna be the first question. That's how I asked that. As far as introduction, you can give me a little rundown, and then what I'm gonna do is like pick it apart based on what you tell me and the information that you give me. So give me a little bit about that, and we're gonna see how these comments go and all of that good stuff. So
Yeah, man. Well, man, I'm born and raised Erie, Pennsylvania. Started out at Catholic school, ended up at Edison, in Central High for a year, graduated from East. So been around the city, lower East side, is where I spent most of my time. Definitely, a church boy, so grew up at Shiloh Baptist Church. So of course, faith is very important to me. Been a major part of my journey. And then probably in my teenage years, I started to develop a love for the state of Pennsylvania, not just the city of Erie. So throughout my time, I've spent a lot of time, of course, in Pittsburgh and Philly and Harrisburg and all of these places. And God has just blessed me to have friendships, in all of those cities and get opportunities to connect with and collab with people. Big on family. Love my family from my siblings, parents, my wife, all of my cousins and uncles. Certainly close to everybody, and big on family, and grateful for the family that God has blessed me with. So those are the major highlights for me. Family, hometown. I love it. I love the state of PA, and I'm excited about the potential that's just bubbling in our state right now.
okay, man, that's crazy. You wrapped that up in a nutshell. Like you ran that through. Like this is who I am. Bam. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
gave it all. Like you know what I said. Like I'm gonna come through and pick that apart a little bit. So when you talk about like as far as growing up, like what type of like household? What was a household situation like for you? Like what was the family arrangement? What was like your viewpoint of, the Cook household? You know what I mean? And how did you come up through it?
Man, I was blessed to have both parents in the home. I didn't understand the value of that growing up, but I understand the value of that on this side. I didn't know back then we were poor, because my parents, even though they didn't have a lot, they always made sure we had food. I of course I know what it's like. Peanut butter ain't got no jelly, and of course we ain't got no jelly. So if I want to have something sweet on my toast, a little butter and a little sugar and cinnamon, just learn how to do
Right.
stuff like that. Just all of those family things. Christmas was big for us. Birthdays, they always made those special. I got there's four of us, so you met my brother Corey. I've also got two sisters who are doing just some great things.
Okay.
And one thing I'm grateful for when it comes to our family is that we're all close. So even in our adult lives, we all stay in touch, we all talk, we all support each other, and that was instilled in us early on, and we just carried it over into our 30s and 40s.
Okay. Okay. So is you, it's Corey, and you said you have also two sisters, and I remember him like speaking about his sisters and as far as some of their accomplishments, excuse me, and things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature. But then as far as like, so you growing up as a young man in Erie, you said you've lived in Erie pretty much your entire life growing up as a young man. Like, what was like growing up for you from, let's say, the middle school age into the point to where you got to high school? Like, what were being involved in the church, and like you said, being a church boy, quote unquote, from your words, like what was that like for you growing up in like just church? Was it typically like strictly church, or like, you know what I mean? Like, how was that growing up at a young age?
No, it was cool. My mom she wasn't like strict, but she did have rules. So I had to sneak and watch Friday. I had to sneak and listen to No Limit,
Okay.
stuff like that. She was strict to a certain extent, but she still gave us some freedom. And though I was a church boy, I was still able to kind of explore. But many of my friends that I established in that church world, for instance, Patrick is my brother, and of course our mothers knew each other at church. and St. Patrick and Jared, Jonathan Baker, Jay Johnson and Ryan Johnson. I mean, all of us grew up together, and
Right.
even if we don't talk to each other for like a year or two, when we see each other, it's all love, because we got so many memories of being at each other's houses, or being at church. And so I remember that time, because that's where I kind of fell in love with music. So we started playing instruments. Corey's playing drums, I'm playing keys. We didn't know that having that exposure at that age was going to do a couple things. One, it was going to keep us out of trouble, because there'd be times in which our other friends was doing other things, and we were playing the instruments at church. We didn't know at the time it was keeping us out of trouble. We just fell in love with it.
Right.
And not only did it keep us out of trouble, but it also set us up, gave us some of the principles and the disciplines that we lean into to this day. We didn't know it then, but we understand it now.
Right. Hey, bro, let me slow you down real quick, because I don't know. Can you see the view like how I'm seeing it? Like,
No.
it kind of seemed like you kind of like dragging a little bit behind you, and I don't want to, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can hear everything that you're saying, but it's a little lag there. I just want to give you the heads up on that. I don't know if you can view it like how I'm viewing it.
Yeah, I can view it. I'm not seeing the lag on my end.
All right, I didn't know who you was, but we live, so you know what I mean. But lad, so when you going through this stage of your life, you know what I mean, like as a young man, like your father was involved. Like what type of man or what type of men were you around growing up that kind of like played a role in like molding you to make you get through certain things and situations in your life, like to level up to the man that you are today?
Man, I'm blessed. I had some strong men around me, men that were hardworking, also didn't mind getting in my face. My dad, to this day, I'm glad he didn't mind putting his hands on me. I was actually telling a story at church about we were doing something in the back, and he was telling me to chill out, and I kind of said something I had no business saying. Before I knew it, that hand was right across my face, and I chilled out real quick after that. But it was all love. It never crossed the line. It was never abusive, but it set a tone for me of respect. So from my biological father to my pastor, to some other male mentors, even some brothers that were maybe 4 or 5 years older than me that still took me under their wing. That was important. I can name a number of them that really blessed me, because they would say, look, man, I'm out here, I'm doing this, you don't want this, and they would have those kind of conversations with me that were major and kept me out of some stuff. So yeah, there were a lot of good men around me back then.
Okay, cool. And like you said, like when it comes to that, like it reminded me what you were saying, like far as my grandfather's style of raising me, like that old school, you know what I mean? Like, listen, you get right. You know what I mean? If you get out of order, we're gonna make sure we take care of you, and we're gonna, you know what I mean? Like you get that tough love from, but you understand what it means as we got older, you know what I mean? As we developed into men, you know what I mean? And we see, and then like you saying you can name some other men, like I definitely know, and I remember like just different gentlemen playing roles in my life, like as far as different coaches and being involved in different after school programs and different sports leagues and things of that nature. And I feel like that's something that's very important, and then for you to be involved in the things that you are today, like growing up through that, like I said, I spoke to Patrick, I spoke to Corey, like growing up through that. So then we get you to high school, you know what I mean? So like you said, you can talk about some people who were doing things that you know what I mean, you weren't doing, or like go that way, go this. So what was like high school like for you, like growing up, and you know what I mean? How did you set your path from where you at today as far as being a pastor?
That started early for me. I knew I was called to preach at like 12.
Hold on, at 12? You knew you was called to preach?
12. Yeah,
12.
at 12, yeah. I wasn't always living like I was called to preach, but I felt that call. But it was wild for me, because though I had the call to preach, I struggled with a speech impediment. And so wrestling with that, stuttering and not being able to get my words out, I had to create little devices for myself so I could overcome that. Like I always had to have in my head 3 words just in case I couldn't get a S word out, I always had a T word on tap. It
Mm.
was like things like that I had to learn. I didn't realize that it was preparing me to think on my feet. It was one of those things I couldn't make sense of it. I feel like I'm called to speak, but I struggle. And so I definitely wrestled with that, from 16 to probably, I think it was about 18 or so, where no, it was 16 when I delivered my first public speech. Then I did a oratorical contest, man, and I bombed like crazy. It was all the way bad. It was all the
Okay.
way bad. And I said I would never do that again. But God, of course, has some other plans for me. So yeah, I would say high school was it was good. It was normal. I love my first year at Central. So that was my first year. I remember that first week was rough because I was coming from Catholic school, and it was just a whole bunch of cats I just didn't know. And I remember one of my boys from church, Adam Mooney, who's now God is called home. But Adam kind of showed me the ropes a little bit. But I remember that first week, man, them bros gave me a hard time at the lunch table, and
Yeah.
it was like sink or swim. It was like I'm coming back next week, and I come back, I'm gonna be fooled, or I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna handle my business. So they killed me that first week. I went home that weekend. I thought about everybody at the table. I wrote some stuff down. I came back, blazed everybody had next week. All those boys, all those boys that blazed me the first week became my best friends that second week, and we ran together that whole year.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I love my first year had Central. I ended up transferring over to East, and East was cool. I have still some great friends to this day that God has blessed me lifelong relationship. So
Oh wow, listen, that's interesting. I've been listening to a couple of different books, and I've been listening to some Damon John books, and
mhm.
some of the things he was talking about as far as like him not doing audio books and him having some different difficulties that he had to go through and get through. And it's interesting for you to. I appreciate the honesty and I appreciate the transparency when you talk about some stuff like that because you know what I mean. Like I said, when I was at that engagement, I heard what you had to say, and I'm just listening. I'm just like, man, you know what he talking about. Like he didn't thought everything through strategically, and it's everything sound organized and well planned out to where it's just like, so like. But then when you talk about like going to school and coming from the Catholic school and then going to the public school and that experience, like so outside of like that first week, what were things like as far as like I guess crossing over and going from a Catholic school to a public school and like you saying you being able to feel and know that you were called to speak at the age of 12, like what were some of the struggles or some of the things that you kind of went through? Maybe I'm not talking about as far as with people, but maybe on a personal level, like as far as some of you being like a human being.
Yeah, man, I would definitely say I think everybody struggles with identity and wanting to be accepted. I remember when I did cross over, I told you that experience at Central where I was good after that first week. All those boys became my best friends that first year. But I remember going overboard and really trying to fit in. And I remember giving this one girl a hard time. I remember giving her a hard time pretty much every day for like 2-3 weeks. I remember that fourth week when she told me that some of the stuff that I was saying caused her to think about taking her own life. Um,
Wow.
that stays with me to this day because I knew that wasn't me, and I and
Right.
I thank God that she didn't take her life. And that I did have that opportunity to wake up and understand how valuable people are and how strong my words are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, even to this day, that ninth grade experience, that's probably one that sticks with me because I learned of those lessons, how powerful my words are, how dangerous it is to try to fit in to the point where you tear somebody else down. And I think me struggling and wrestling with identity, finding that balance to have the respect of peers, but not losing myself, became something valuable. I learned it almost tragically, but I'm glad she ended up turning around. Me and her ended up becoming cool. But it was a lesson that still sticks with me to this day, and I talk to kids about it all the time.
Right. So you say you talk to kids about it all the time. That's, like words are powerful, and then like getting involved with talking to kids about like, listen, that's crazy. Like, so you talk about this experience. Like, these are two different experiences in high school that you can remember. But outside of that, like, were you ever involved or active in like any sports or, you know what I mean? Like, because like I don't know. It just seems like from the things that I've heard about you and the things that I see about you, like, and I hope that, like I said, I like to give people flowers and give people praise. You know what I mean? So then, like,
Mhm.
it just seemed like you one of them people who just like, you're a good dude. I hear great things about you. I see the work that you do in the community, and then you run in the church. Like, I've kind of like, I guess, overwhelmed with having this conversation with you because I don't know what the boundaries and the limitations are, but just knowing a little bit more about you and hearing some different things, like you seem like a larger than life character in this city. You know what I mean? You feel like somebody that I feel like I want to be and need to be connected to, and just getting to know a little bit more about you, and you know what I mean, hearing some of the things that would be interested and being more involved, like the power and word. That somebody left a comment like the power in the tongue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like why do you do what you do? Let me ask you that. Why do you feel like you give your word up and you give your time up and people like why do you do what you do?
Well, I think for me it is a calling, yeah, for sure. I always laugh when people treat preachers as if everyone is the same. So people see Creflo Dollar asking for money for a plane. They think every preacher got money. I tell you right now, it ain't no money in this.
Okay.
For the few, yes. If you're gonna do this, you gotta feel like it's a calling,
Right.
because there's just a lot of there are high moments, there are also low moments. And so for me, if you ask me at the foundation of this, why do I do it? It's a calling. And Paul actually says it in the Bible, woe unto me if I don't preach the gospel. Like I don't know what I would do if I said no to God. I think that would have me I don't even want to think about where I would be. This is what I'm called to do. And of course, because I'm operating in what I feel God has called me to do, I get a certain level of joy. It comes with its own pressures. I think you probably found this out. When you work in the public space, people can't do what you do, but they're experts at what you should do.
Mm.
And
Hold on,
so
wait, say that again. Say that again.
people can't do what you do,
Right.
but they're experts at what you should do. So they always say you should have said it like this, or you should get this. But when you look at what they're doing, they're not doing anything but critiquing you, and you get a
Right.
lot of that when you work in the public space at any level, whether you're a content creator, whether you're a preacher, pastor, whether you're an entrepreneur, you are going to get that. And so there has to be some sort of underlying conviction that causes you to show up. And what I found is that's really the name of the game. Just showing up.
Right.
It's not always a paycheck involved. It's not always accolades involved. It's not always good times involved. But showing up, God has a way of bringing about a blessing, especially when this is what He's called you to do. And that's why I do what I do, because I just feel this call of God.
You just and coming from the goodness of your heart and the God that you believe and you serve, it's like I'm bringing it, I'm delivering it. You know what I mean? As
Mhm.
far as goals and accomplishing goals, when it comes to your religion and being a pastor and sharing your gifts or your blessings with the world, like how does that? What type of pressures come with that? With you as a man, like being as an individual man of God, and knowing that, like you said, you got to deal with some of the naysayers and the people telling you what you should have did, how you should have did, and then like money is important to all of us. Like to know that
Mhm.
this is not making me rich, and I'm giving you all of my time and all of my energy and all my studies of the Word and of the Lord. You know what I mean? And like
Mhm.
how does that come into play?
Yeah, I would say every every individual has to wrestle with this, but of course, preachers and pastors or anybody that serves in the public space, um, people will love you until you give them that first no. And so you can go for a month and you can say yes 100 times.
Right.
And that one time you say no, you the devil. You this, you that. And you gotta, that's why understanding the call is so important, because if you go based off of what people are saying, you will run yourself ragged. You will go crazy, because people will love you today and they'll hate you tomorrow.
Right.
And people are just so fickle. And that's just, and again, that's everywhere. That's music, entertainment, ministry, sports, you name the area. People have a way of propping you up. And I always say this, and I've heard Charlemagne say this and others, that you're never as bad as they say you are, but you're also never as good as as they say you are. It's always somewhere in between. And that's why what fuels you has to be something outside of them and outside of what they say. Because if I'm always driven by what they say, I won't ever get anything done. That's why it has to be the God who called me and the people who are close to me that help to keep me centered. And I'm not caught up into just all of it, because it's just so much. I mean, people get mad if you say something about politics. They call you a coon if you don't say something. You're too woke if you talk about this. And people on every side, they have their own pet issue, and if you aren't careful, you'll get pulled into it. And again, this isn't just coming from a preacher. This is for content creators, entertainers, anybody that's in any public space. And you have to monitor and understand, what is the conviction? What is your why? You know, if you understand what your why is, that'll keep you level when everything else is trying to pull you to the left or too far to the right.
Right. Absolutely. Definitely. I definitely agree with understanding your why. Listen, again, I don't know if it's me or if it's you, but it really do, like, I'm lagging. I'm not sure if you lagging or if I'm lagging, but I don't know if it's your background, your green. You got a green screen behind you.
No, this is a straight black. Well,
Okay.
let me look.
My fault. I don't want to throw you off, but it's, you know what I mean. Like, I want to make sure I capture, you know what I mean, your expression and the words that you're saying.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the connection.
I hope it's not a connection, man, because you going, man. You going, and I'm appreciating everything, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity. So, like, again, we can keep it flowing, but I just wanted to make sure I put that out there. I don't know if you could see it from somewhere else or for it to get a little better,
Yeah.
but I appreciate, so far, like, the opportunity to hear you speak about some of the things that you speak about, and then, like, taking it back, like, my conversations be all over the place, but they always end up coming together somehow, some way. So, you know what I mean? Don't mind me if I'm all over the place with it, but,
No,
like,
you good.
I like to let it flow, be organic, and be authentic, but again, going back into that, when you talk about the scrutiny of, being a preacher and having the right thing to say and having the wrong thing to say, like, that's a lot of pressure to step up to the plate, to be a leader, like that, and then to be somebody who's picked apart, because, like you said, if you make the wrong decision, or if you don't make the decision that somebody agree with, somebody's gonna have something to say, and you still got to stay true to your word and true to your heart and all of that. So when I like the conversation that I be liking to talk about with people is, like, far as, like, networking, having a support system around you and actually believing in what you want to do and pushing forward and going through with your dreams. Like, what's your, and I don't know if it's, like, outside of God, like, what's your why? Like, what's your push? What's your fire? Where do your passion and your fire come from, as far as you, like, want to be involved in being a man of God and being involved in the community? And then, is that the only thing that you do? Is that, like, a full-time job for you, or?
Yeah, well, I say the push is definitely a call from God, but also a love for people.
Right.
So yeah, so I love people, and I want to see people win. And so that's always been something big for me. When I think about why we do what we do for kids and why we want to give kids different experiences and give them exposure, it's because I love people.
Right.
And so yes, I think loving God is one, loving people too. As far as the other things that I do, of course, ministry is always a big part of my life. But I've been creating content online since 2008. And I started online, not connected to ministry. I started online connected to music.
Okay.
So I started teaching people how to play gospel music in church, and it actually turned into a business accidentally. I just put up a video on YouTube one day, just to me playing a hymn. It was Holy, Holy, Holy.
Okay.
And that week, that video out of nowhere got thousands of views, and people started reaching out to me, asking them to, show them how to play piano. And that turned into me creating courses and doing that over the internet. And so I've run that YouTube channel. So that channel probably has about I think about 30,000 folk that follow it. And then on Facebook, another 10 to 15,000 who follow that. And
Really?
I got an email list that I maintain to this day as well. So yeah.
Man, that's what's up. You said you accidentally started a business that turned into that?
Yeah, it was on accident. I just happened to put up a video that somebody asked me to put the video. I put it up, and yeah, it just turned into a business. I started creating courses, and even to this day, I still do one-on-one lessons and teach. I don't play as much as I used to play, but I still do instruction and teach people who want to get started playing piano and playing organ in church, teaching them the basics, how to play by ear. So people want to know, how do I sit down at the instrument if I can't read a lick of music? How do I hear it and play it? And so that's typically what I teach, how to play what you hear. And so of course there's so many different ways to utilize that. You can use that if you want to produce music. So I've worked with producers who want to produce their own music. Of course I've worked with church musicians.
Okay.
And then of course I've got a lot of friends who play far better than me that I've brought in to help me out as well. Can you play this, or can you show somebody this? Yeah, so that's been something that has been near and dear to me. And then the other piece that I'm really excited about, in 2021, we started the Empowered Life Community Development Corporation, and that is a nonprofit that exists to empower lives.
Oh, you said it's Empowerment of Life organization?
It's called the Empowered Life Community Development Corporation. So
the Empowered Life Community Development Corporation.
Yep. So
okay.
So the Empowered Life CDC. We were blessed. God has opened up doors. We felt the need to really start our programming around digital literacy and helping kids do what we're doing now. So one of the first programs that I got funded is called the Content Creators Lab.
Wow.
And so that we put microphones in kids' hands and teach them how to do what we do in the day podcast and work with cameras and things like that. So so that's something that's like near and dear to me. Patrick actually runs a big part of that program every Wednesday. He has anywhere from 15 to 30 kids that come, and they've been doing various things. He took them. What's that place called? Playport, something like that.
Playport, that little the casino. I mean, not the casino, the arcade. The casino for kids, but the arcade, the little arcade place out there. We didn't have plenty of birthday parties out there.
Yeah, so he actually just took them there last Wednesday. So they meet every Wednesday, and of course we're branching the programming out from just youth to men's programming as well as programming for women as well. So those are a couple of the main things I'm into.
Wow, man, and so literally I said this to Patrick last time when I had him on, like, y'all literally like a walking school, like you and your team, you know what I mean? Your family members, your brother, your congregates, like literally a walking school, because I didn't even know that you had all of that stuff going on. And for that to accidentally turn into where you like teaching music, and like how important has music been in your life, like what has music done for you? What kind of doors outside of that, like what kind of doors has it opened for you? And how did that, like, you said, I'm assuming you said it started with content. Were you a pastor, like an actual pastor before the content, or like what role did music have in your life as far as like leading you up to the moment to where you got all of this going on? Because I didn't know half of that stuff.
Well, music was big for me, man. So I think I was preaching before I was playing, but I started both around the same time. But that early time, again, going back to me being a church boy, was important because I learned how to play piano at church. That's
Right.
where I learned how to play. And there's a brother by the name of Fred Dixon. And Fred was somebody who I watched, and even before him, his other names: Otley Mount, Irma James, Viola Williams. I can call so many names. Craig Cooley, people who I just watched, coming up, and that foundation was so very important for me. So that once we got to a point where we were playing, we didn't realize that just that fun we had playing, of course, kept us off the street, had us, playing instruments. So we're not at parties 12, 1, 2 in the morning. We
Right.
down in the basement playing instruments. And fast forward, I didn't know that was going to be a way. Once I got into some of these cities that I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
I've made money in just about every city I mentioned, about somebody asking me to come play, or somebody asking me to come teach about music. So I didn't know that me learning how to play and me starting off with just trying to have fun at Shiloh when I was in my teens, I didn't know that was going to translate into economic opportunities in my adult life, and I didn't know that was going to spin off into other things. So, for instance, Corey's program, Life Through Music. I mean,
He talks about that.
his love for music got him to a job where he was working for the YMCA. That ended up into him sitting on the stage, Good Morning America, with Michael Strahan. Like, we weren't thinking about that stuff when we was
Right.
young. We was just playing with the drumsticks. We was playing with the keys, but God blessed it, and he turned it into what it is now.
That's what's up, man. So then when you like you said music producers and different things like that, is there any like top names that you've worked with or you've had conversation with or had discussions with that's like these are some of the things that I've got into or got myself involved in through being able to be involved in music?
Yeah, no, I can't say that somebody came to me and now they a Grammy Award winner. No. So I don't have anything like that, but I have a lot of people that came to me and couldn't play at all, and now they're playing full time for their churches, or
Okay.
now they're now they're writing music and they're getting paid for that. I do have some good friends in the music business. One of my real good friends, I actually had him on, Keith Pelzer. Many people remember when I was having a conversation with him. He produced a lot of Jill Scott stuff. So
Okay.
all that stuff. You Love Me and all that stuff. So Pelzer came up with Jazzy Jeff had a group of producers, and Pelzer came up in Philly. It was about like 5 or 6 of them. And he did a whole bunch of this great stuff with that group. But of course, I've got friends like that, but those are just friends. So those aren't people that learn from me or anything like that. God just kind of put folk like that in my path, and we have friendships to this day. And then of course Jonathan Baker, Jonathan's on a big stage every week. So Jonathan, he's an Erie boy.
Okay.
He's down at Redemption Church in Greenville, South Carolina, under John Gray. And so Jonathan's singing the thousands every Sunday. And he started off in Erie, Pennsylvania. And Jonathan and we started playing keys together. We would get mad at each other because he would have a chord before I would have a chord. I would have a chord before he would have one. His ear was sharper than mine, and we was just sharpening each other. So much to the point Jonathan ended up, he ended up producing his own music. Now, like I said, now he's on these big stages. He's writing for some upcoming projects, And once again, right out of the city of Erie, all this talent came, and it really was right under the roof of Shiloh Baptist Church, and that was a blessing.
Wow, man, that's crazy. Like, some of the comments in here, like you've definitely been surrounded by some amazing people. You've definitely been involved with some amazing people. Like, we definitely need to be I love the word definitely. I don't know why, but we need to get them
Yeah,
more involved and have conversations. I ain't gonna say more involved. I would like to know you guys more and be
yeah,
more, organized and part of some of the things that you have going on, because it sounds to me like from what you're saying, it's like I've been through some situations in my life to where, like, my grandfather, he had a gospel band. They traveled all over, playing music and stuff like that. I really didn't get involved in the music like my cousin Pierre. I don't know if you know Pierre. My cousin Pierre, he played the drums. It's
Pierre
getting
who?
them getting involved. But like from what you're saying and how it helped you and how it played a role and you not even being curious, I ain't gonna say curious to, like, but being involved in things that are things that typical young men do. Like, it was just music, like, and then talking to you and Patrick and talking to you and Corey as well. So like when it comes to that and you giving that back to some of those younger people, like, what type of growth and what type of development do you see when you are interacting and you doing the work that you do when it comes to teaching music? Like, how does that give joy to people, or how does that light people up for you?
Why? Well, one thing, music is the universal language. So people, they take to a melody. So when you can teach them, look, this is what you heard on that Disney movie, or you just watch Wakanda Forever. This is what they were doing on that soundtrack on this part of the movie. When
Right.
like you can make those connections, what you're doing is not just tapping into the music, but you're tapping into what somebody felt when they had that experience. So when they
Mm.
like when you go and show them how to play something Luther Vandross, or you show them how to play something that they heard on a Jay-Z record, like all of these sounds, all of these melodies are connected to moments and to emotions, and they understand, because I think this is like the real thing that we need to be pushing, that we have enough consumers in the world. We need more creators. So we need more people who
Exactly.
understand the
Exactly.
power of creating. And whether it's music or whether it's podcasting, whether it's videos, whatever it is, we need to teach people the power of creating. We need your voice. There's nobody like you. There's not going to be anybody else like you. And creating something enables you to leave a legacy. It enables you to leave something behind. It enables you to put your imprint on the world. And we got too many people going into the grave with so much creativity and so much power to do some great things. And so I think for me, that's the blessing. Teaching kids, look, you are creative, and once you understand how powerful you are and what you can create, whether it's music, whether it's writing, whether it's speaking, it opens up other areas of life. It opens up your confidence. It opens up your self-image. It opens up your ability to innovate and to think. Because even you, if you were going to be what you want to be in this environment that you've created to have conversations,
Right.
it required you to learn how to pick up a camera. It required you to learn how to mess
Right.
around with microphones. It required you to learn other things, and it stretched you. And what you're gonna find out, if you haven't found out already, it's gonna be somebody that wants to know how to do what you do. And so you get to do a couple of things. One, you can mentor folk and show them how to do it, but you also at some point can monetize the knowledge that you have. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I think it's when we teach people how to create, it just opens up so much.
Okay. So then, like you said, you also said when you go from teaching some of the children, and then we talk about men. You know what I mean? Like us shifting a
Mhm.
little bit towards like the men and like the man building aspect of like the conversation that I like to have. Like, my question to you is, like, what do you think are like some qualities of a good man, and like what are some things that we need to do as far as like us uplifting other men and creating more men like yourself and more men like the people that you are around who have a good, whatever the qualities may be. I'm gonna allow you to answer that question. Like, what do you think some of the qualities are that we as men need to have to be more manly?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has some of the typical qualities of manhood. I think one of the overused words that were buzzing around for a while. What does it mean to be a high value man? You've heard things like that. I think one word that comes to mind for me is resilience.
Ooh,
Bringing up men who understand that whatever they did before, they have an opportunity to be something else today. And if you are resilient, you can learn skills that maybe you didn't have them in your 20s, but you're in your 30s now, and you're not complaining about what you didn't do in your 20s. You in your 30s, so
right,
make it happen now. Or you in your 40s, or wherever you are, you can learn skills. If you can be resilient, understand that a victim mindset isn't going to help you. I was
right,
talking about what you didn't have, what mama didn't teach you, or or what happened here. No, what do I got with this moment that I have right now, and how can I maximize it? What new skill can I learn? What can I contribute? If I had a decade that went by and I didn't have a relationship with my child, what can I do to make that better today? Regardless of how they respond, what can I do to contribute to that? What can I do to contribute to more peace when it comes to marriage, or with my baby mom, or with my mom, or siblings? Like, how can I take ownership of where I am now, and be resilient enough to say that, yeah, maybe some people did wrong me, or maybe everything wasn't right, but I'm not going to give them all the power.
right.
I'm going to use the power I got to make the most of where I am. And so I think for me, manhood, in a lot of ways, comes down to that, because whatever people think of me, there
Hmm.
is nothing perfect about me. I struggle. I'm learning all the time. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm in a season of my life now where I'm learning that some of the mess ups that I've had in relationships have come by not listening enough. And so now I'm in the season of my life where I'm asking more questions. I want to
Okay,
know. I want to understand better. I want to see better. I want to be what the Bible says: slow to speak, quick to listen, and slow to get angry. Like,
okay,
like those, like, that's like a quick verse in James, but it's so powerful because many of us reverse that. We like to open up our mouths, we like to get angry fast, and then we like to listen. But the Bible's saying, nope, be 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 slow to open up your mouth,
hmm,
quick to listen, and slow to get angry. So I would say, if I could boil down to one word, I would encourage men to be resilient. No matter
resilient.
what can you do with what you got right now?
Right. I love it. I love it. And then especially when you mentioned like far as the marriage thing, as far as children, what's your you don't mind, like what's your family structure like as far as you like, do you have children? Like, are you know what I mean? What, tell that to some of the people who do not know who you are. You know what I mean? Like, give
Mhm.
us a little bit of your background and who you are a little bit. I'm ready to kind of, I feel a little bit more comfortable now, loosening up. I can shoot these next 20, what you got
Yeah,
going on for us?
yeah. Well, no children. I thank God for my wife. She's been a blessing to me.
Okay.
She has stretched me in a lot of ways. And I'm so grateful to God for her. Always has me constantly learning, and I'm still learning. So yeah, so just my siblings that I've already spoken of, and of course,
Uh-huh.
cousins and family. Thank God for my wife, and we'll see what tomorrow may bring. But I don't got
Okay.
any little ones right
So
now.
let me ask you, like, when it comes to that, you praise your wife. Like, I'm not a married man, but I've spoke to different gentlemen who are married, spoke to
Mhm.
some gentlemen who aren't married, and then like we talk about support systems and we talk about what I don't want to throw any adjectives out there that I don't know, but like how important is like for you as a black man? I'm gonna ask you like as a black man having a wife and being married, as far as like when it comes to you just moving forward in life, like how important is the woman to you, your woman to you? Excuse me.
I mean, of course, I am grateful for all the time that I've had with Siobhan. Siobhan has stretched me in many ways, and when you have somebody in your life special, they can expose weaknesses you have. Now, if you aren't careful, if you aren't careful, you will ignore or miss what they're pointing out.
Right.
And I think a good woman is always going to point out areas in which you need to be better. And no relationship worth having is one without work. And that's why, some people struggle to be in relationships, because they are work. You're constantly evolving. Marriage is difficult. It's difficult to be with one person, and trying to do life together, bringing two minds together, to have one common goal. And so I am grateful to God for the time that she's been in my life. She's stretched me in so many ways. I'm better because of her. And I'm definitely a testimony of the fact that, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, because there are so many benefits to having not just a good woman, but the right woman in your
Right.
life.
So when it comes to that, like, how do you make the decision, or how did you know like she was the one? And, like, as far as you, when it comes to you personally on a personal level, like, what made you say, I'm going to marry this woman? I'm gonna make, you know what I mean? Like, what made you, like, what were how did you make that decision?
Man, there's a lot that went into it. First of all, she fine, so yeah, so that
Okay, okay.
that ain't hurt at all. But yeah, she's just so strong. I think, her strength. I've always appreciated, just how wise and how smart she is. Her ability to, just to process, and she would laugh hearing me say that, because that's something that sometimes has been a challenge to me, because I'm more of a on my feet type of thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Um uh, but 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 how she has been able to, take things and really to break it down to, just to the process. I'm not always able to think process, and like that's a struggle, but it's also something that at the same time has, really drawn me in, because it's just something that I just don't naturally do. And then, I mean, just her personality, of course. I mean, I think we've just clicked in so many different ways. And so yeah, she's been a blessing all the way around.
Okay. All right. That's what's up. We definitely got a shout out to your wife out there, if for you having all those things to say about her, and as
Mm.
far as like making a decision to be married. Um, because like for me, like it's different times I thought about it. Like, I feel like I'm never gonna get married, in my life, and then I got to a point where, like, you know what, I need a wife, or I feel like it would be good to have a wife. So, having different conversations with different men about their
Mhm.
situations and their relationships, and especially with you being a man of God, like, it's just interesting to get some type of feedback or some type of conversation about it. But then, like, so then having a conversation, I know some of my conversations, like, I want to have this one to be completely different from some of the other ones because of some of the things that's going on. It's like, when you think about, like, you being considered, like, I like to look at you like a leader. You know what I mean? You are a leader within our community. You know what I mean? You being the man of God and speaking up and doing what you do. Like, how how important do you think it is for other black men to get involved in, like, the role of leadership in the city of Erie, as far as like being more active in the community and being more honorable men? Like, what type of impact do you think that'll have on us, as far as if some of us are able to get ourselves more involved and be more, I guess, like minded and connected?
Yeah, I think it's critical for brothers to understand their role, um in, of course, in family, in society. And I know that there's a lot of conversation around whether gender is even a conversation that we should be having. Um, I've all I can speak from my perspective in that I've been blessed to understand the value of manhood. And I mean real manhood, like men who understand what it's like to be strong, but also to be loving, what it's like to lead, but also be nurturing. I've been blessed to have those type of men in my life, but on the conversation around leadership, I think we get caught up because leadership in the Black community has been tricky because people think that there's always been one voice, for instance. So it's like, we need the next Martin Luther King.
Right.
Well, the
Right.
problem with that is that King wasn't the only leader at the time. As a matter of fact, when you read the record, King wasn't even liked by a whole lot of his contemporaries at the time. James Cone in his book, he talks about the value of having both a Martin Luther King and a Malcolm X. It
Right.
wasn't that we
Okay.
needed either or, we needed
Right.
both and. Because if we were going to have progress, we needed multiple voices who can speak to issues from different perspectives. And if that's the truth with the Martin King and Malcolm X conversation, if we want to take it into Disney, it's true with the T'Challa Killmonger. I don't think we needed either or. I think both were needed
Right.
in that conversation. I think we need brothers on multiple sides of the spectrum with different insights, and we can't always trip about the gifts that one brother has that you don't have, because the truth of the matter is you do something I can't do.
Right.
You have an
Exactly.
audience I don't have. And the question is, can we figure out the times we can come together? Because we don't got to come together all the time.
Right.
But there are times, those moments in which we should come together, where I bring my audience and then link it up with your audience, and we put something special together. And so I think, brothers, we have to reevaluate what our role is, what our connection is to each other. That it's not always about us competing. Sometimes we got to come together, but understanding that unity is not uniformity. So I can be unified with you, and I
Right.
don't have to be you.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I think that's what I would say on leadership. We need some more brothers that standing up.
Absolutely. And I agree. Like I agree with you when you say that too, because a lot of us, like, I can support you and not everything that you, all your viewpoints and everything that you feel and everything that you think coming together. But it's like, you still want to push and thrive and see people win and succeed. And you got a great idea that's gonna work for your community of people in your village. Like, why not be it, your time for your village to eat, and I still support you and I still can like uplift you and empower you. So like I feel like being I guess being in the city of Erie, like we see some of that, it's starting to be more of a relevant thing. It's starting to be more of a popular thing for some of us to be in the role of leadership. And like I said, to see you sit and speak and had a conversation that you did have, like why is it important for you to be involved in the community as like the way you are? Like, why is it like growing up? Like, was there things that you seen that was missing, or you know what I mean? Outside of it being like, you're walking your wild. Like, why are these things important for you living here in Erie?
Well, I think it's important that, well, for me, that I step up now, because there's a transition happening. So many of the leaders that were leading, especially in the church space when I was coming up, they're either retired or God has called them home. And so there's a changeover that's happening right in our midst. So my mentor, Reverend Charles E. Mock, praise God, he's still with us, but he recently retired. So he retired in July. And so you have many of these leaders who were in leadership, but now they're either retiring or, again, God has called them home. So if that's the case, there's this vacuum now. So I'm not the 20-year-old or the teenager that was looking up to them. I'm now them, because I'm 40 now.
Exactly.
Some are 30. So I think it's important for us to stand up, because we are what they were. And we have to ask ourselves, are we ready? Do we have the mindset that we can take the baton and really take it to the next level? Because we have so many tools that they didn't have.
Exactly.
And it would be a shame if we have the internet, and we have FaceTime, and we have podcasting, all these tools, and we don't use it in the way that they were using the radio, and in the way that they were using, pamphlets and passing stuff out. We can get on our phone, and we can group text 20 people and have
Right.
them text 20 people. They had to go door to door, and that's still cool, but we have advantages that we can get our message out in a way that they couldn't. Our message has the ability to be both personal and scalable. So we can meet people where they are individually, and we can reach a lot of people at the same time. So are we using that to the benefit of the community, so that we can grow, we can be better, we can be stronger, wiser? Or are we going to sit back and just complain about, how many guns are on the block, and how many drugs are being sold, or how many teenage mothers they have? People talk about this stuff, but it's like, no, get out there and make some noise. Get out there and speak on something. Use your platform, build a platform. I think we need more brothers doing what you're doing, so that we can amplify the voices of positivity. I think is so very important.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you wholeheartedly on everything that you said, because like I feel like it's a lot of people who have a lot of complaints about things that's going on, and then some of us who have the complaints don't do certain things, and then there are some people who actually are working hard to make some
Mhm.
changes and to develop and create some different changes around here within our community. So then, like outside of that, like I know you're a very vocal person. Like a lot of these interviews, I go and ask people about like being so modest and stuff like that. But then on that side, like why do you think like the men who work the hardest like are so modest about their message and won't step up and won't preach and won't be willing to say, hey, listen, this is a way for you to change your life outside of anything? Like, why do you feel like people are so like modest when it comes to bragging about themselves, or like this is some of the things that I'm doing, especially when you know the things that I'm doing is good?
Yeah, I think. Well, I can speak from the church world. I know a lot struggle with that, and I struggle too, because we were always taught to be humble. But I think, to your point, there's a way to be humble and still say, "Look, this is what I do."
Right.
And I think that we have to do a better job of that. And I know one of the things that pushed me out there is that I got tired of hearing the same narrative, talking as if every pastor is on the same stuff. So
Okay.
just because you find one doing something crazy, now you think everyone is doing something crazy. And I find that sometimes black people do to the black church what we say white people do to us. So we
Mm,
say that because one black church has done something wrong, every black church, or one church
mm,
period is wrong, every black church is this way. And the truth is, we've been saying white folk been doing that to us forever. That
right.
and we have a way of doing it to each other. Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the church, and let me brag on the church.
Let's go.
Many of the things that we have that benefit black people, we have because black men came out of the black church, black women came out of the black church, and they put their money where their mouth was. So when it comes to our right to vote, we just voted. It was Martin King and others that fought for that. When it comes to our freedom, Harriet Tubman was a Christian woman. When it comes to us looking to Africa and seeing the benefit of Africa, men like Marcus Garvey come to mind. When it comes to just the protesting against white supremacy, it was a black preacher by the name of Nat Turner that led that led that slave revolt. So not
Right.
every black man or not every black Christian man was scared to fight. I can go on and on about
Right.
how black churches funded black businesses through their benevolent funds. I can
Mm-hmm.
go on about Richard Allen, who decided he wasn't going to sit in a white church and be forced to sit in the back. So he started the first major AME church in Philadelphia. We can go on, and we don't even got to talk about the transatlantic slave trade. We can go back to the Bible, where you see right in the book of Acts, African men are taking the gospel to Greeks. So black men preaching Christianity to white men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you got people that say things like, oh, well, blacks didn't get saved, or they didn't discover Jesus until they were brought over here as slaves. Well, there's a whole lot of facts. You talk about the Coptic Church. You talk about Augustine. All of these black Christians that predate America, that all the way from the beginning of the church in the book of Acts. Read Acts 2. Blacks were there from the very beginning. And the only reason why I bring that up is because we don't understand the rich history that we have, and we don't brag on it, and we allow people to mute our voice before we're even able to open our mouth at times.
Right.
And we have to brag on not just the black Christian experience, but just the resilience in black people, period. And if our ancestors were able to do what they did with the little bit of resources that they had,
Right.
we ought to be able to do what we can do with all
Absolutely.
that God has given us.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And then but then you threw the word humble out there to me. And every time I have somebody on here, people always throw that word out. And I tell them, like, to me, there's a difference in the word humble and humility. And when you first was going on talking about some of the things that you did and why you did what you did, it was just like you literally broke down what I thought was the practice of humility. And then just being more like, when I say, like, as far as people being modest about it and being humble about it, it's like you said, think about all of these things that these great people have done. And it's like you had to do research and dig it up. And now there are a lot of great men within the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, who are doing a lot of great things. And you know what I mean? They have the opportunity to just put something on social media to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is great. Like, follow this. Or, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm doing something good. I'm doing something great. Like the way you brag about certain things and the way that you talk about certain things so more people can be informed. Like I feel like we definitely need to do that, because like everybody on your team, like, you think about some of the brothers that you name when you talk about. I just know you, I know Corey, I know Patrick. I know Patrick was talking about his brother Jared. You know, you were naming the other guy, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, not Jonathan Taylor, Jonathan Baker, excuse me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're naming some of them other guys, and just imagine if like 100 people, 100 different people that you didn't know in the city of Erie knew what you did and knew what your team embodied, and you guys had access to teach not just children but other grown men to like learn how to tap into different environments and different things. Like this would be a dangerous place. And this is why I do like these interviews. And this is why I had these conversations, because I like to talk to different men who have different things going on, you know what I mean? And get different information and get different insights about, the world and stuff like that. So then also, like, this is something that's very interesting to me, because I always had these conversations with different people, and we always talk about the subject of mental health. And I
Mm-hmm.
know growing up, as a young man, in the church, like that wasn't really something I was focused on. And then even talking to some of the elders, like they all like, I pray to God and God is my counselor and therapist and stuff like that. Like, what's your take on mental health, the whole mental health idea and concept, and how do you take care of yourself and keep yourself together?
I mean, well, mental health is a very important conversation to have. People who make that statement, and I'll just speak from my faith tradition. They don't take the Bible for all it's worth. So so act like people only spoke to God. That's not true. It's never either or. It's a both and. So God can speak to me, and he can use my therapist to help me to work through my issues.
Okay.
Because when it comes to our mind is a part of our body in the same way that our heart is, or in the same way that our leg is. I was reading a story about this guy back in the 90s who didn't like going to the doctor, but he went and they told him that he needed his bladder removed. He needed something done there. So because he didn't trust the doctors or the surgeons, he went home and he tried to take it out himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can imagine what happened. He died.
Right.
He bled out. But I tell that story, which is a true story, because that's what happens to so many folk when it comes to mental health. We try to work on ourselves and we end up killing ourselves. We damage ourselves. And our problem isn't that God can't help us through it. Our problem is that our understanding of God is so limited that we keep pushing up against a ceiling. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are some issues that if we talk to the right person, and I want to stress that about mental health, that it's not just talking to a therapist or getting somebody. You got to have the right person. You got to have the right folk. And so you have to do your due diligence when it comes to branching out into into mental health, because it would be wrong of me to act like everything is perfect in the mental health space. There
Right.
are some issues there, and so we have to monitor that. But mental health is not absent of my faith. I can have faith in God, and I can trust God. I can pray to God, but I can still have somebody that's professionally trained to help me to work through some issues that I need to work through. So I always tell people when it comes to that, it's not an either or. It's not God or my therapist. It could be both and sometimes God will use the medicine or God will use the therapy to heal you, because the idea of a miracle is that a miracle is not the norm.
Right.
So people try to act like miracles got to happen all the time.
Right.
God doesn't always use a miracle in order to heal folk, in order to deliver folk. Sometimes God will use means that are available in order to get people where they are. It reminds me of that guy. I heard that story years ago. Brother was he was stuck on his roof in the flood, and he said, God save me." So a boat came. Brother said, "Go on by, because I already prayed. God save me." Helicopter came. "Hey, come on, here's a ladder." He's like, "Nope, go on by. I already prayed to God to save me." He ended up drowning, goes to heaven. He said, "God, what's up? I asked you to save me." God said, "I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter, and you told them both to go by." And that's what we often do. We miss
Mm.
out on our blessing
Mm.
because we're waiting on God to do something miraculous, when many times the miracle is in the mundane. It's in those everyday experiences.
Right. Okay. Okay. So then, when like, I'm glad that you say that, because, like I said, just being able to clear that up, and then somebody said in the comments, "Don, I love those viewpoints, especially because it came from a man of God." Like, I've had different conversations, with my father about mental health, and just different individuals, and like everybody say, well, I can't say everybody. I'm gonna pray to God. God is my therapist. I don't want to talk to nobody, and like to hear you have a viewpoint on that, opposed to what I ain't gonna say different to what I've heard. You know what I mean? Is very interesting to say, and then even hearing you talk about music and you being able to, like, because I look at people who a lot of people don't really understand mental health and understand how, like, coping with mental health, and then you take it back to the music aspect of, you know you doing what you do and being able to tap into music and listen to it and teach somebody how to play it from ear, and then getting involved into the ministry. Like, I really wanted to dive deep into some of that stuff, but like I said, it was just kind of like overwhelming to have some type of conversation and ask some certain questions, because, like, I want to know, like, how does that is it a separation as far as, like, are you always Pastor Darrell Cook, or is it times where, like, is there any challenges when it comes to, like, the man versus the pastor, and the father versus the pastor, and then when people see you in the community, like, the way you're treated and things like that, like, how is that like for you, just being a man of God and being, actually having it, because you have the title of pastor, like, how is that for you?
I've always been mindful of how I've handled that. I'll say this: when I first got called into ministry, I remember Deacon Benjamin Mooney telling me, and I was in my late teens at this point. He was saying, "Yeah, I heard you were called in ministry. Just know I'm watching you. The microscope's gonna be on you."
Hmm.
So he instilled that in me years ago. So it's definitely not always been easy, but I've always been mindful of the fact that people are watching. And I always tell ministers that I train, it's not fair that you live your life in this fishbowl. But if this is your calling, you got to understand what you're signing up for. So I one of the things that the tension that I live with is that I can do 1,000 things right, and it only takes one bad day for me to undo those 1,000 things. And so I don't ever talk about anybody who's fallen short or anybody who's tripped up, and it could be whatever. You can name any scandal you got. I'm very careful because I realize that all of us are one decision away from, just from things going bad. And many times those bad decisions that we make are connected to something bad we're feeling at the time. So I'm always mindful of that. I always live in that tension. And so it does play into how I handle relationships. So be honest, I don't get comfortable with everybody. I do maintain separation in relationships, and it's not because I'm elitist or I'm trying to be better than, but there is a certain level of trust that I have to have, because at a certain point when you're out in public, what you got is your reputation. And so
Right.
you got to be mindful of that. So I'm very careful around who's who's close to me. I'll say that. And I think Jesus did that, because Jesus had thousands of followers, but out of that thousands, he had 100 who were committed. Out of that 100, he had 12 who were his disciples, and out of that 12, he had 3 that walked with him closer than the other 12. And so I think even Jesus models that we be mindful of our circle, because he had, he had Peter, James, and John. He had those close to him, and even though Judas was a part of the 12, Jesus never allowed Judas in that close circle. And
Mm.
being mindful that, yeah, you will have some folk, some enemies who are close to you. You'll have some folk who are dangerous. You can't always control that, but you can be real intentional about who occupies that personal space. And I think for me, that's something that I've always done and I've always been mindful of.
Wow, man. Listen, to hear you like break down the organizational structure of like relationships and the hierarchy of the way you have it, like it's very interesting to me because I'm learning that like throughout my journey and not throughout my like my own little path of developing as a man and understanding better of who I am. Like I'm starting to see the way that you broke it down biblically, how it means more, how it means to me as far as like my image and as far as like who has access to me and what level of access they do have to me. And it's interesting to hear you say, and I'm glad that I can think the way that I think, to like a lot of people need to hear that and understand that, because on a biblical aspect of it, and then on as far as like a real life aspect of it, like even kids could learn to understand how to create relationships and build relationships with people if they could understand the way like you create your relationships and then you break it down in the biblical terms to, you know what I mean, and make it make sense to everybody. Like, so even like with doing that, and then so it sounds to me like you pretty much don't deal with no pressure, no struggles or nothing at all. Like you smooth sailing and everything's a-okay, and it's just like I stay good, I
No,
stay great, and
no, that ain't it at all, bro. No, I think for me, just like everybody else, I've got my share of struggles and got my share of issues, and I've dealt with it all: relationship issues, financial issues. Yeah, I've dealt with it all. But I think for me, um, I'm just I'm mindful around about who's with me, because there are some people who can take your struggles and they can make them harder. There's other
mm-hmm,
people who can walk with you through it. And
mm-hmm,
so I've tried to be mindful of the folk that I have around me. So for instance, like Corey's my brother, but Corey's probably closer to me than just about anybody other than my wife.
okay,
So he's we've turned into, or over the years we just become best friends. So we tell each other our moves. We have conversations around, what's next, what we thinking about. We can talk, marriage. I mean, we can talk everything, but like that's a relationship that has been cultivated for a lifetime. Patrick is the same way.
right,
And so I'm going to trust them differently than I'm going to trust somebody that I just met last week. And I know for some people you're listening, that sounds simple, but I can't tell you how many people who think that just because you're my friend on Facebook, you're my friend in real life.
Right.
And we try to we trust people too fast, and they haven't earned that. And so the people who have access, they have that close space to me. They know that I've got struggles. They know that I'm not perfect. I may
Right.
not have struggles that somebody else has, but I do. I have struggles. But those folk who are around me, who I trust, they make me better. They
Mm-hmm.
call me out on my stuff, man. You
Uh-huh.
want, man, you want sharp on that, man. You
Right.
gotta rethink that. And I want folk like that around me.
Exactly. I'm glad that you said that because I was going to ask you, like, based on how you pick them people, like, what type of characteristics do you have to, like, as far as like people being around you? I'm learning that as far as like me developing into a man and me growing and building. It's like I know I have to have certain kind of people around me, and I need to have like they have to have certain type of characteristics because that's how I'm going to grow and that's how I'm going to thrive and that's how I'm going to change my life. You know what I mean? When I'm not hanging with knuckleheads and spending time with people who mean me know well, like, and it's good. Like it's good that you got those type of people around you. You had that type of mindset because like even talking about the leadership area and then just me talking about like building and connecting with different people, like I think networking is important. And I think it's very important for me to be having conversations like this with like-minded people. And I think it's important for us to share these type of conversations with the world to where people like we've been talking for like an hour, 20 minutes, you know what I mean? Just, talking about religion, we talking about faith, talking about the upbringing, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure the conversation can go so much more deeper, but I need people around, around me like you. You know what I mean? I need people who speak with power, who speak with confidence, who are courageous enough to share certain words. And I feel like we need to highlight more people like yourself and your team, and we need to be more vocal. And we need to be more active. And I know that you guys get down. You know what I mean? Everybody does their portion. We need to figure out a way where we can all start connecting and bringing everything together because I want it to be more than talk. You know what I mean? I want it to be more than just on Facebook or having these different interviews, but for us to be able to like start creating tables. I was at a meeting today with Curtis, Curtis Jones Jr. And it was just a lot of women in the room, and it was like 3 or 4 men. And I feel like some of us as men, like we got to start stepping up. We got to start going to these places, and we got to start getting on these committees and start joining these boards and like actually taking a plan of action to where we are doing things. And you definitely strike me as one of the type of people who are down with that kind of stuff. Like I said, especially from hearing you speak. Like I appreciate everything that you just offered, everything that you have to share, your journey, your walk through. Like I said, like it was kind of nerve-wracking for me to ask, different questions that I wanted to ask, you know what I mean? Because like I don't know, it just always seems, you have a conversation. I don't know you that well. Like have a conversation with a preacher sometimes seems larger than life. But like you said, you're a regular person. And I appreciate everything that you do. Appreciate your time and opportunity for you coming. And I want to continue to have conversation with you and build with you and connect with you. And I want to be a part of your circle, like with your friends. I want to be your friend, you know what I mean? Like, and I want us all to be able to learn and build together. So like it's gonna come a point in time where we all get together and we doing different things. And like hopefully you are interested with that. You know what I mean? I appreciate everything, like your body of work, you know what I mean, and your gifts and your talents, and even understanding like you're a very self-aware man. You know what I mean? From the conversation, like, and me, like again, we all look at religion different and we all look at pastors and preachers different, like you said, but just having to be able to have a conversation with you and understand a little bit more about who you are, like you strike me out, like you're a man of God, but you're a man, you're a real live man. And I can appreciate having good conversations with men. So like I definitely appreciate you coming on here having this conversation with me, man. I appreciate the work that you do. And I feel like you and I want to have a conversation with you on a more personal level to get more involved and, kind of tap into who you are, what you into, so we can build together again. But like I want to thank you for your time. And then I don't want to saturate it too much. Like I said, I want to learn it. We've been running for a minute. So before I go, like if you got anything that you want to say to me or to us or any questions or anything like that, like we got a title, the Darrell Cook Show. Like it's up to you. If go ahead and give us what you got.
My man. Well, look, I appreciate you for having me. This has certainly been good. You're right. We need to have more of these conversations. We also need to understand that we're not in the day and age in which there has to be any sort of trepidation or any sort of concern about talking to anybody, preacher, whoever. Preachers need to be able to have conversations like this. Matter of fact, the Bible says, "But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts and be ready to give an answer." So we need to be able to have some conversations. And so like next time, you know, we build or connect, you know, we got something difficult we got to chop about. Let's chop about it, because I think that just makes us better, and I think that makes us stronger. And too many, I'll say, I can say this, that too many of us as preachers and pastors, we've been missing from these conversations, because a lot of preachers are comfortable talking in the pulpit, but they're not always comfortable sitting on a platform like this. And so I want to make myself available anytime I can, anytime, you know, you want to have dialogue, man. I love to. Definitely, I'm with you. We definitely got to build offline as well. I think that there's some major opportunities. I was serious when I was talking about the shift in the city right now. That's not just true in the church world. That's true just across the city of Erie.
Exactly.
Many are the brothers who were, you know, who were doing it, who were holding things down, holding down the vote, just holding down to just everything. They're older, they're getting ready to retire, and they come to me all the time. Look, I need to pass this off. And so we need to be ready for that. We need to be talking about not just what they did, how we can take what they did and we can plug that into what we're doing, how we can utilize the platforms that we have, and then ask ourselves, how can I help you build your platform? How can you help me build mine? How can we grow? How can we do some stuff together, to where it's not, you know, you winning or me winning, but we all winning? How can we, you know, how can we build in such a way that is mutually beneficial, not just for us, but for the community in which we serve? And so I think those are some conversations we got to have. I'm here for it. Man, I salute you. All the content creators out there, continue to do what you do. Your voices are needed. You know, we need to amplify them. And I'm ready to come in y'all's environment, but I'm giving you an invite now. I want to bring you in my environment because I need some brothers to hear from you to learn about what you're doing.
Man, listen here. I'm definitely open and interested in doing something like that. I've been all over the place, like trying to help out and share my information because, like you said, it's needed. And I feel like I definitely have something to bring to the table, even if it's just my presence or my conversation. Like I feel like some of the younger people and then even some other men, like you said, we need to start connecting, we need to start building. So anything that you're interested, you can let me know. I'm working on a schedule now, so I got different things scheduled and booked, but you let me know what you need me to do, and I'm down because I definitely appreciate your time. Like I said, I appreciate every single thing that you had to say, and I agree with the last couple of things that you said wholeheartedly, 100%. Like it's a lot of different things going. I'll be involved in a lot of different things and in different rooms and part of different conversations to hear the things that are going on in the city of Erie and the need for us to literally step up and take the torch that's going to be passed to us, or take the torch period and kind of implement some of our ideas and some of our mindsets, some of our strategies to make Erie a better place for all of us. Because I mean, although some of us complain, it's definitely time for opportunity. If we start speaking up, we start stepping out, we start actually doing things and coming and collectively doing it. Like you said, it don't have to be like all united, you know what I mean? But you know, we can all be uniform. So, like, yeah, man, I appreciate that. And I don't know if you have my number already. We was talking a lot through Facebook Messenger, but like, I'm gonna give you my number, give you my email information, and anything that you want to throw some ideas at me. If you need some help, you invite me into your space. I'm more than willing and more than welcome to help. But like I said, I appreciate your time. I want to have more of your time and be part of those circles and have those conversations. And I think everybody does too. And you definitely on the page that I believe that I'm on, and we are all on when it comes to changing this community and us. Like you said, I'm 36 years old. You know what I mean? I feel like we grew up under some of these people to where it's time for us to kind of start implementing what they've been teaching and what they've been doing, as well as implementing our own stuff and literally creating something for ourselves. So I appreciate your time, man, your information. And like I said, that's where we're gonna end it off there. We got an hour and a half going, and if you ain't got nothing else to say, man, I'm gonna allow you to go ahead and take off.
Man, I'm good. Well, let me get some shout outs. Anthony, what's up, bro? Unc is on. Don Brown, Much love to you. Camille Crenshaw was on. I know I saw Selena King. She was on. She popped in. So all of you that are popped in, much love to you. Again, I want to thank my brother for having me. I think this is the first of many conversations, and just the first some great things. Collaboration and just a bunch of stuff. I think that God's getting ready to do in our community, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And thank you for allowing me to share on your platform. I'm praying God to continue to bless you, that God will blow your mind, that God will continue to amplify your voice, because he knows that we need it in this season.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You have a good rest of your night.
Yes, sir. You do the same.
All right. All right, man. So there you have it. We've had our conversation with Pastor Darrell Cook. And I definitely appreciate that conversation because everything that he was saying was true, and he seemed very genuine in the things that he had to say. And I'm not gonna lie, like I was anxious. I was somewhat anxious to have that conversation with him because there was some things that I wanted to talk about, some questions that I probably didn't ask that I could have asked and should have asked. But like I'm learning like the power of networking, and I'm learning and understanding the power of having those type of conversations to see like what I can do to develop myself as a man, and through some of our viewers, some of the things that we can do, develop ourselves as men, and as far as the community, as far as environment. And I feel like we need to continue to have these conversations. We need to be talking about this kind of stuff outside of this platform. Talking about the shift in the leadership within our community, and talking about stepping up as men, and having more resiliency. You know what I mean? And us practicing more humility, and us being more active to one another to be able to start like creating some change. And being more active in your religion or in your faith or whatever that is, like whatever you look at or whatever you consider to be a higher power, like to just be more solid and be more sound. Like every single thing that he had to say, and the information and the time that he was willing to give, like, I appreciate every single piece of it, and hopefully we continue to have more of these conversations. I got Curtis Jones who said he's gonna come over here with me too. We're gonna have Shannon Pulliam coming up on here. We're gonna have Brian Atterbury coming up on here. We're gonna have Terrell Woodard. Listen, man, we have a nice lineup of a lot of names, people accepting responses and being willing to come and have this conversation. And I want it to continue to grow, and I want the conversation to keep happening outside of the platform. I want the conversation to keep going outside of, social media, because we need to be more vocal, fellas. Like I'm telling y'all, it's a lot of us who do great things, who do amazing things, and people don't know about it. And we need to start preaching these messages, and we need to start getting this information out. So, more people will come out and be involved in different things, and more of us can be more vocal about, our struggles and our successes, and just keep winning, keep thriving, and keep going in the right direction. So I appreciate Mr. Darrell Cook's time. You know what I mean? I appreciate everybody who is involved in the conversation, the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like, send the thumbs up, loves. Subscribe to the notifications so when we go live, say I need my baby back in here. But when we do go live, you'll have the notification and let you know. But again, and then for all my guests who've been on the show, like we got the private Facebook group. Like we need more interaction in there, fellas. Like we need to have more conversation. We need to do more building. Like we all are strong men. We are accountable men. So I'm holding you all accountable. We need to have more interaction in the group. We need to be doing more game planning, more just discussion, just more things just flowing. But I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate y'all for watching this episode. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate Darrell Cook for in his words that he had for me. We're going to continue to keep coming with some heat on the Social Experiment Show. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good rest of y'all night.